Welcome to 7 Secrets to Doubling Your Recruitment Business Revenue in 2025 without neglecting your family, without having to double your team size, and despite the economic climate. One of the reasons we wanted to put on this training is, speaking to a lot of you, over the course of last year, a lot of recruitment research business owners from, most English-speaking countries. One of the things we found is that a lot of you found last year difficult, difficult to win clients, difficult to secure business, difficult to retain business, difficult to make placements, all in all. Also, on top of that, those that grew, so there's again, some people found it really difficult. Those that grew, they had to do it with a lot of sacrifice. So they found themselves working longer and longer hours in the office, away from their family, away from their friends, without, they probably came into the business for freedom, but along the course of the journey, they've sort of, I guess, lost that freedom, and the business is beginning robbing them of that freedom. So we wanted to put on a training that helped you going into 2025, helped you get that growth, helped you get that success without all the downside, without what people sometimes think is part of the journey. There's the sacrifice of the family, sacrifice of, having the massive overheads, or being your success being controlled, without your success being controlled by what's going on in the economy, because obviously we can't, we have no impact on that. Again, just want to check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. And Terry, anything you wanna add to that?
Yeah, I think added to that, we've got the economic uncertainty, kind of touched on, but the economic climate is changing quite a bit, driven a lot by inflation, interest rates. In the US, you've got a new president coming. Sure, that always creates uncertainty, whatever your political views are. And I think the other challenge is talent shortage. Despite a fluctuation job market, certain sectors such as technology, healthcare, and engineering face real persistent challenges when it comes to finding good quality talent. It also drew increasing client expectations. Clients are becoming more sophisticated now when it comes to engaging recruiters. They want a better return on investment. They expect deeper market insights. They want a faster turnaround. You've also got what we call the disruptors coming into the market that are really stirring things up as well. You've got digital transformation, data-driven hiring processes now. That's helping with the guys, the disruptors that are coming in. Added to which you've got the challenge with, training your staff, free pressures, competition. It's a really challenging business out there. With increased competition, it's dead easy to enter the market now. For a recruiter to enter the market, all you need is a phone and a PC and call yourself a recruiter. Then you've got the online platform. As a recruiter, and it was really challenging last year. It's becoming really challenging. And here's what we know. If you keep doing what you did last year, you're going to get pretty much the same results. And that's probably not a good idea. The whole purpose of this is just to help you. We're not selling anything. We just want to share with you some of the things that you could be doing and looking at to get that edge over your competitors over the next 12 months or so, because it's going to be a challenging 2025. Of that, there is no doubt whatsoever, Drew. Back to you, buddy.
Awesome. So again, so when check in, does that make sense? First of all, give me a yes or no in the chat box. Give me a yes if it makes sense. No, if it doesn't, I can clarify a bit more. Awesome. Perfect. Good stuff. And so just want to do, before we dive into content, just want to do a quick survey. I've seen some familiar faces, some new ones as well, some that I don't recognize. Just want to get a gauge of I guess how familiar that you guys are with our work before we sort of, whether we do an introduction or not. So if this is your first time seeing or hearing a training from me and Terry, give me I'd put number 1 in the chat box so I know if you're new. And then if it's, if you're familiar with our work before, give me number 2, just so I can get a gauge of, how many people this is the first time, how many people that, you're more familiar with our work.
We can just adjust the presentation accordingly. Yeah. The one is, yeah.
Awesome.
It's a bit of a mixture, really, isn't it, Drew?
Okay, cool. So look, I'm just gonna do a very, 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 very brief introduction. My name is Drew Edwards. Obviously, this is Terry Edwards. We're a father and son duo. Really, what we do is we help recruitment and search business owners make more placements, and we do this by focusing on a few things. One, we help you get more conversations, more appointments with hiring managers in your market, right? So more conversations with interested hiring managers in your market. 2, we help you convert those conversations into paying clients on the right fee and on the right terms. And then 3, we help you do those 2 things without it taking too much time, energy, resources away from you as a business owner, right? So that's sort of the brief overview of what we do. I guess if you want to find out more, probably the best place to do it would be obviously we're you can connect with us on LinkedIn or any of the other socials. I think if you want a recording of this training, actually, probably the best place to go if you go to our Facebook group. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat box here. If you search for the Make More Placements Facebook group, you can join there. You can obviously speak to us more and also get the recording of this training when it's done as well. Terry, anything you want to add to that?
Not at this stage, Drew.
Awesome. So before we get into content, just want to do a quick disclaimer. So we're going to be going, so it's now 8 minutes past. We're going to be going for probably another sort of 50 minutes or so. to make it an hour-long training. We're going to be going through 7 secrets, 7 principles. For each of the principles, obviously, because we've only got 60 minutes, just going to be scraping the surface, right? Again, if you do want to know more, feel free to reach out to us. But again, I want to make you aware that, you know, we can probably speak for days on each one of these topics, but we're going to be running through things really quickly. If you have any questions as we go along, obviously some of you already put in the chat box, but if you've got any questions, anything's unclear, use the chat box. If anything is clear, is making sense, use chat box as well. I think I love doing these online presentations, but I think one of the things you lose is we can't see your faces, we can't see the reaction of the room. So we do need your input in terms of the chat box, just to let us know how things are going. Again, if you're okay with that, give me a yes right now, just to make sure that makes sense. Perfect. And those that haven't used it yet, it's on the bottom right-hand side. Cool. Also, I'm going to be checking in quite a lot. None of what we share with you is going to work with you for you if you're not wanting to put the work in, not wanting to change what you're currently doing for the better. And again, like I said, it's going to be sort of 50 minutes. We're going to be together. Can you shut down your emails, your social medias, any other distractions that you've got on? Again, dedicate your time with us for the next 50 minutes or so. If you're not prepared to do that, that's fine. If you've got other things that you need to be focused on, that's fine. But what I would say is leave now and we can part ways friends. What I want to do is I want everyone on here to be super engaged, super active, and super, ready to learn, ready to grow their businesses. Again, does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. And Terry, anything you want to add to that?
Not at this stage, buddy. Let's get going with it because I want to give as much value as possible, help as many people as we can do.
Perfect. So secret number one, or thing number one to focus on is what we call the three pillars of revenue growth, right? So what we find is when we speak to recruitment and search business owners about growing a business, they tend to only focus on one thing and neglect these other 3 areas, right? So I'm just let me just share my screen quickly too. Cool. So there's only, no matter what sector you're in, no matter what market you're in, there's only really 3 ways to grow your business. One is to increase the number of clients that you have, right? So if you think about how many clients you worked with last year, if you go into, let's say you worked with 10 clients last year, if you increase that to 15, 20 clients this year, again, that's one way that we can increase the business. Number 2 is to increase the transaction frequency, right? Or the number of placements you make per client, right? So if we've got 10 clients and we each of them, we made one placement last year, so we could increase that to 2, 3, whatever. And that's another way to grow the business. The other way is to increase the transaction value, right? Which effectively going to be the fee or the amount you charge, right? They're the only 3 ways to grow your business. I think one of the mistakes that recruiters make is when they think about growth, they only think of, how can I get more clients in? How can I win more business? And I think, it is obviously an important part of the business, but when you only focus on that area, that's where the only way for a lot of you, the only way you're going to be able to do that is by increasing the team size, increasing the overheads, and sometimes in some cases increasing the office size as well. But if you focus on all 3, we can achieve growth with the current team size you have now without any additional overheads, without any additional hassle. Again, just want to check in. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat box. And Terry, why can you just again explain a bit more while I sort of illustrate this in the diagram?
Yeah, of course, can. So we've been back to work since the 6th of this month, and in that time, I've had 3 messages from recruiters saying something like this: "Sarah, I need your help. We had 1 main client or 2 main clients. In one case, 3 main clients that gave us 80-90% of our business. We've just found out that we've lost our main client." That's not unusual, sadly. I probably get 4 or 5 messages like that a week, every single week. Well, recruiters got a business, they've got 1 or 2 main clients, they give them all the business. If they lose that 1 client, sometimes it's the 1 main consultant that leaves the business. Then they're standing there with their trousers around their ankles because they didn't have a process in place for winning more clients. And if you just had that in place and had some sort of process where you made a decision that whatever we do, winning more clients is the lifeblood of our business, that would never happen. However, sometimes some recruiters focus too much on winning more clients. So it is about getting the right balance. But as Drew said, if think about it, if you're recruiting, let's say at 50,000 as an example, and let's say your average fee is 20% for the sake of this conversation, that means that every placement you make is worth 10,000. You could literally double your income by simply moving further up the food chain. So rather than recruit at 50,000, you now recruit at 100,000. But you could also recruit at 150,000 or 200,000. It is about a choice that you make. But simply by doing that, by moving further up the food chain, or just by increasing your fee, if you were just to increase your fees from 20% to 22%, that's a 10% increase. But all that activity would be adding to your bottom line, and there's no additional cost involved in doing that. And you could look at doing that with your existing clients as well. There are so many things, but I think a lot of time people think the only way to grow a business is just to get more clients. But getting more clients is one way, increasing your fees, or with the existing clients you're working with, fill more of the roles within that organization. But those 3 things will For most businesses, if you were to implement those things, it would transform your business with no additional cost. For many recruiters, they're already sitting on an untapped gold mine. Does that make sense,
And
Drew?
just to me again, just let us know in the chat box if that makes sense. Give us a yes or no, and just to illustrate how powerful this can be when you, I guess, when you split your focus on all three areas rather than just solely going for more clients. Let's imagine right now, and again, these numbers will work whatever your business size is, no matter how many employees you have, no matter what revenue, what fee, whatever. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to imagine that 2024, we started with a business that had 10 clients over the year. With each of those clients, we made one placement, and the average value for those placements were 10K. So that would give us a 100K business turnover. Again, doesn't matter what currency, whereabouts we are. But imagine that's the case for this. And then let's say you listen to this training and you focus on all three areas and just get 20%, just a 20% increase in all three of those areas. And Terry, can you give me a calculator for this?
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, let me just get a calculator.
So rather than, let's say 2025, rather than working with 10 clients, you have 12. Rather than making just one placement per client, you make. So again, some will be more than one, some less than one, whatever. But on average, 1.2 placements per clients, and then the average fee this time is going to be 12K, right? So we've slightly increased the average fee. Again, can you give us the maths for that? What that would be in terms of revenue?
Yeah, that's 264,000 as opposed to 100,000.
So
that's 264.
So 264.
Yeah.
Thousand. Again, just by focusing on all three areas, rather than focusing on imagine we had to go and get 20 clients, right? And the work and the resources that would take, the number of consultants you need to do that, right? So again, no matter what team size you're at now, no matter what what sector, whatever, if we just look for an incremental increase in all three of these areas rather than just focusing on one, we get. I want to check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. And Terry, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think I've miscalculated actually. So I'm going to do it again. I don't think it. Yeah, it just seems a bit high. 12 multiplied by 1.2 multiplied by 1.2. Yeah, apologies, Drew. It's 172.
172. Okay.
Yeah, my apologies.
Still good, but not. Here's where this gets really interesting. Again, rather than just going for a 20% increase, I'm going to go for a 30% increase, right? So let's say rather than just the 12 clients, we work with 13. Rather than just 1.2, we will go with 1.3, and then rather than just the 12K, we do 13K. Again, can you give us
an accurate figure? Do you want this time, Drew?
Oh, yes, please. That will be very helpful.
220,000.
Cool. So again, now we get to double, right? So basically, what we can do, this shows you, right? You can double your revenue from where you started without having to really expand your resources, right? So I don't think there's going to be anyone in this call that can't increase the number of clients they worked with last year by 30%, increase the number of placements they made last year per client by 30%, and increase the value. You can probably do that without having to hire any more people. Again, give me a yes or no in the chat box if that makes sense. And Terry, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, clearly maths isn't my strong point, so I just want to apologise for that.
You had a calculator, so I don't know.
Clearly, I don't have to use a calculator, right?
Cool,
seriously.
Again, that's secret number one. Basically, it's more about, rather than just focusing on more clients, you can achieve this right now with the business that you've got, the team size, everything you've got right now, if you focus on all three of these areas. So Terry, did I cut in?
No, that's fine. You keep going. I'm still trying to learn how to turn the calculator on, so you keep going. So
that's secret number one. Is that we call it the three pillars of revenue growth, right? So focus on all three simultaneously rather than just focusing on one. And if we get an incremental increase in each one, we're going to get big growth overall. Secret number two is, and again, all these are going to be linked to secret number one now, because these are three ways to grow your revenue. The secret number two is to do business development to a bigger audience of people. Sounds very simple, may sound similar to you, but to do business development to a bigger audience of people. So one of the things that we find, again, last year, every year we speak to recruiters, but one of the things that, again, especially is important when the economy is contracting, right? Let's say, for example, you market to 100 people, and at any given time, so let me do this, 100 people, and at any given time, we've got 3 out of that 100 who are hiring, right? At any given time, we've got 3 out of that 100. If the market contracts, right? So we're still going to market that same 100 people, but this time, the economy is in a really bad way, and only 1 out of every 100 are hiring. If we don't increase that 100 people, we're going to struggle, right? Our business is going to really struggle. So one of the ways we can beat the shift in the economy, any contraction in the economy, is we just market to more people. We just increase that 100 number. So whatever you're doing right now to market your business, whatever you're doing now in terms of business development, whether it's cold calls, email, LinkedIn, doesn't matter what it is. You have something, you have a process that works. It's assuming you've got at least one client, right? You have whatever it is, rather than relying on our current network, we're going to look for ways to expand the people that we're reaching with that same strategy, right? So then even if the market contracts and now only 1 out of every 100 is hiring, if we're now marketing to, let's say, 300 people, we're still gonna get 3 out of 3 other people hiring, right? So it's gonna basically have the same revenue as we would here. But again, if we increase that to 600 people and so on, the bigger we can do. If we're doing the same outreach to the bigger group of people, we're gonna beat any contractions that the economy might have. Again, just want to check in if that makes sense. Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Any questions, let me know as well. And Terry, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, the thing I want to add to it as well, that you have mentioned there, Drew, is that whatever activity you're doing for getting business, I can almost give you a cast iron guarantee most of the activity isn't going to work. You're not going to get any results. And one of our mantras is most of your marketing will be ignored most of the time. Don't get offended by it. Don't get upset by it. That's just the way it is. And that's if it was easier, everybody would be doing it. So if you're then going to accept that and go, actually, most of my marketing will be ignored most of the time. So let's use a very simple thing. I'm going to do some email marketing. I've got a list of 2,000 potential clients. By the way, if I meet a recruiter with 2,000 potential, the exception, the majority of cases, they would say 500, 700 or something. But let's say you've got a list of 2,000. You send out an email. Here's another thing. Most of the email campaigns that you send out, most of the emails will never, ever get opened. Through no fault of yours, that's just the way it is. Again, you can complain about it, or you can just accept and go, that's just the way it is. I acknowledge that. In some cases, your opening rates on email campaigns could be as low as, so you do an email campaign to 2,000 potential clients and you only get a 2% response. Well, 2% of 2,000, you've got 40 responses, you've got 40 leads. Most recruiters we're talking to, they've got 200 people that they're marketed to. So they do a campaign and they get 2 leads. What they say to us is, my marketing isn't working. Often it's not a case that the market isn't working. It's just you're marketing to a smaller list. And if your competitor is aware of this, so you're now aware of it. So if you then say, well, actually, what would happen then if I was to get a list of 10,000 potential clients? What if I was to make the decision, rather than recruiting on a local basis or a national basis, what if I'm based in Europe and I think, actually, I'm going to target North America as well? Or what if North Americans said, right, we're going to target the whole of Europe? See what's going on here now. You've now got a list of 10,000 perhaps, rather than a list of 2,000, 5 times as many, which could literally transform most businesses. Now you get, every time you get inquiries in, you're getting 200 inquiries in rather than just 2. Simply by adopting that philosophy and acknowledging that most of the time, most of your marketing will be ignored. Let me just check in if that makes sense, what I'm saying there. What we want you to do is to stack the odds in your favor. Give me a yes or a no. If it doesn't make sense, or you want anything clarified, just give me just let us know and we'll cover it.
Yeah, I think just to finish up on that, Terry, like I think when not just even last year, but whenever we speak to a recruiter who was, they're doing well and then things get more difficult, they're not winning as much business, it's always because they're marketing to that same small network of people. They haven't expanded that. And I think if you can, other than, or just as well as looking at ways to improve your business development, right, which we're going to come on to, as well as that, you just look at ways that, how can I do my business development to more people? Just simply doing that will mean that you achieve substantial growth, or at the very least you stay the same, even when the market's contracting, right? So, but if we can, the rate that we market to people, or the rate that our audience grows is bigger than the rate that the market's decreasing, then we'll always grow the business. Again, it's very simple, but often overlooked by the majority of recruitment and search business owners we look to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Again, just to remind you, if you do have any questions, I know we're moving through this quickly, just put the question in the chat box. We'll come to it. But number three is to build a predictable client attraction system. So number 3, again, related to attracting more clients, but it's to build a predictable client attraction system. And the reason we say this is because, again, most of you here right now listening to this will, you already have some clients that you've worked with in the past, or clients you're working with currently. But what we find is when whenever we work with a client, whenever we work with a recruitment search persona, and we go into their business and look at what they're doing in terms of business development, everything, 9 times out of 10, everything is so sporadic. They have no real, they have things that work, don't get me wrong, but they have no real system as to how they're implementing that. So they'll say, like, we do NPCs, we make calls, we do this on LinkedIn, right? But there's no they have no idea of the numbers behind that. Okay, so how many NPCs did it take you to make a placement? How many calls did it take to make a placement, right? The clearer you can get on the numbers that lead to success, the and the more, I guess, the more in line your system is, the more predictable growth becomes. Because if it takes me to do 10 NPCs to get one client and I want 10 clients, well, I need to do 100 NPCs, right? So wherever it is, once you build that system and you get clear on the numbers, again, growth becomes more predictable, especially, if we link this back to secret number 2, which is the market to a bigger audience. If we've now got a bigger audience to do these activities with, again, we're going to get that growth. We're going to get more clients in. Again, someone check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. And Terry, anything you want to add?
So the one key word in all this is consistency. My apologies, consistent. Often we talk to recruiters and we say, how do you get business? Well, we do NPCs, we do emails, we're using LinkedIn, but they're doing it every now and then. And it's a bit like going to the gym and going, I don't know, twice in the week. And they say, yeah, I go to the gym, but that's as often as you go. You're just doing it every now and then. Again, I want you to know that everything that we're sharing with you what the most successful recruiters are doing right now. The most successful recruiters, if they're doing NPCs, they're doing it on a regular basis. They're getting their team to do it on a regular and consistent basis. If they're marketing via emails, they're doing it on a regular and consistent basis. They're not dipping in and then dipping out. The other mistake that you often see is they dip in, get some business. Their argument is now, I've now got to work on delivering this business, so they stop doing it. No, you can't. Sales and marketing is the lifeblood of your business. If you haven't got sales and marketing in place, you haven't got a business. If you haven't got sales and marketing, you're going to go through what we call famine and feast. One quarter, you're eating steaks and drinking champagnes. The next quarter, it's bread and water. Many recruiters live like that. It doesn't have to be that way. If you're consistent with this and you're doing methods that are predictable, you'll have a steady flow of clients coming in and a steady flow of income. You've got nothing to worry about. And you'll listen to your colleagues and your peers talk about how difficult it is at the moment. The only reason it's difficult because they're not doing just this. They're not consistent. They're not even marketing at all in many cases. It's imperative and that you view this as the life and blood of your business. Sales and marketing is the life and blood and soul of your business and any business, quite frankly. You far away, John.
First question is Anthony's asked he said NPC, but can you explain what we mean when you say MP?
Yeah, so different recruiters have different names. We used to call them candidates on steroids. Most placeable candidates. That's when you've got our exact language when I was a recruiter. We've got a shit hot candidate here. Let's get them out to the market. We can open some doors with this candidate. So we used to joke about it, call it the candidate on steroids. So when you market a high quality candidate to your potential market, saying we've just identified this candidate who would be a perfect fit for your organization, now to your bottom line, etc. I get asked all the time, by the way. And what I want you to do, I want you to think about when you go home tonight, or whether in the tube or the trains or whatever, you're going to see adverts that you've seen time and time again. There's a reason for that. If only advertisers could advertise just once and they'd get all the clients they need, and that would be it. But here's something I want you to remember. Your hiring managers will buy from you when they have a need for what you do, not when you reach out to them. There could be a mismatch there. So you could be marketing them today and they're thinking, I couldn't care less. I've got zero interest in this. However, a month from now, somebody walks in and has their notice in and they're going, shoot, I need to get somebody in to replace this person that's handed the notice in. The problem we have with recruiters, we don't know when that is. So to answer your question, you should market to them. In fact, there's a saying in marketing, you should market to them until they either buy, die, or tell you to go away. Unless you get one of those three, just keep marketing, because you have no idea when they're going to have a need for your services. And all the evidence shows that the recruiter that markets the most consistently and the most regularly gets more business than the recruiter that doesn't. This is considered, by the way. One of the reasons you haven't got the business that you want right now is because your potential clients have never, ever heard of you. Just let that sink in for a minute. They've never heard of you. And here's a fact. If they've never heard of you, they're never going to do business with you. If you've got a situation like that, that's why you need to be marketing on a regular and consistent basis. I hope that answered your question. Back to you, Drew.
Awesome. Again, to let us know if that makes sense, give us a yes or no in the chat box. Or if you've got any questions, again, let us know as well. But whilst you're doing that, we're gonna move on to secret number 4, which is secret number 4. And Terry touched on this earlier, but it's focus on filling bigger salary roles. So focus on filling bigger salary roles. So like we said, one of the 3 keys to growth is increasing that transaction value, right? Which is effectively going to be the fee that you get. And there's really 2, if we break it down into simplistic terms, there's 2 ways to increase your fee, right? Let's say that you charge a 20% fee now. One of the ways to increase your fee is, next time you go into a sales meeting, is we say, look, no, it's not 20%, it's 21% or 25%, whatever. We just increase the percentage that we charge on the salary. The other way is that we don't increase the percentage. So we still charge 20%, But rather than working on salaries of 50K per year, we're now working on salaries 100K per year. So again, our percentages that we charge stay the same, but we effectively doubled the revenue that we collect on that placement, right? So it's two. They're the sort of two. There's lots of strategies that can go into those, but there's two sort of main ways that you can increase your fees. And I think, you should be doing both, quite frankly. But I guess the easiest that you can do in our view, what we've seen work best is rather than, or as to say that rather, definitely do both. But if you're going to pick one, it should be to focus on bigger salary roles, right? So rather than whatever salary you're working at now, whether your clients are now, your clients become your candidates, and then you go out and find new clients, right? Because I think just from a mindset point of view, there's less of this battle with, we used to charge 20%, now we're trying to charge 25%. We're keeping the percentage the same, but we're going to collect more revenue. And again, that's going to be pure profit to the bottom line, because for the most part, all of your processes are going to stay the same when it comes to one, winning a client in the first place, but then two, making a placement and everything that's involved there. You keep the costs the same, but you're now collecting more money. And again, it links back to the 3 pillars of growth. We can do this without having to really hire any more people, change anything in the business thing, and then any plus as well. I think just going back to the economy, the higher salary roles tend to be safer when there's there's a contracting market, right? Because they tend to be the roles that are have more value to the organization as well. Okay, but secret number 4 is focus on filling bigger salary or higher salary roles. Again, just want to check in. Does that make sense? Give us a yes or no in the chat box, and if you've got any questions, ask as well. And Terry, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just to let you know, I've been in the industry for nearly 30 years now, and I was recruiting. I've recruited at all levels. And anyone that's been in recruitment for any while and recruited at all level will tell you the same thing. Whether you recruit at a salary of 20,000 or 200,000, the process is pretty much the same. However, the more senior roles, as bizarre as it sounds if you haven't experienced this, are actually easier. You ask anybody who's recruiting at a more senior level, the recruiting itself and finding the candidates and the interaction you have with the candidates and everything else is a lot more easier. So ultimately, if you make that decision, and it is a decision that you have to make, I'm going to go for higher salary. What it means is you're gonna work less but earn more. So let's say at the moment you're recruiting at 50,000. You say, right, I'm going to go for 50. I'm going to go for 100,000, but you're going to keep the percentage the same. Now each placement you make is worth 20,000. Now, if you're a solo recruiter and you only do 2 placements a month, you're at 40,000 a month. That's $500,000 a year, as opposed to 250,000 a year if you're doing 2 placements at 50,000. Nothing's changed. But the main thing I think is it's actually easier. The other thing I'd add as well, the more senior the role, the more business critical it is for that organization. What you'll find, which I find is really fascinating, you get less pushback on your fees at the more senior roles. If you're recruiting a director of sales, this individual's going to carry a target for several million. They're not going to quibble over you over a couple of percentage. What they want is they want the best candidate for that role. And by the way, if in doubt, ask the question. I can either get you the best candidate or get you the cheapest, but you can't have both. What is your priority? For the more senior roles, they go, don't ask silly questions. Of course, I want the best. This is a business critical role. For the lower end, entry level, there's nothing wrong with recruiting that level. Let's say warehouse operatives or whatever. It becomes more of a commodity. So they are going to sort of try and drive your rates down. But it's less likely to happen at the more senior roles. There are so many advantages of working at the more senior roles. And the final one is most recruiters are frightened of working at the more senior role. They have doubt about whether they can do it. Just think about it a minute, because there's no reality in that. That's just their own internal fear. And I say to you, take advantage of it and say, well, actually, it's just the same whether I recruit at 50,000 or 250,000. It's exactly the same. But I'll spend all my time and efforts getting those higher fees. And now, so we've got clients who get fees of 50, 60,000. Then we talk to another recruiter who's generating 80,000 in a year. And you think, oh, we're working with clients that are doing that in a month. The only difference is their thinking. That's the only difference. Got nothing to do with experience or anything else. Back to you, Drew. Any questions on that? And anything that I've said there, please let me know. Nicola just said, yeah, I agree. The easier roles are easier, more commitment. Yeah, that's a very good point there. The clients are more committed, and also the candidates. You don't get candidates not attending interviews and not showing up on the day they're meant to start. Just give me some feedback if that's making sense. By the way, if it's not making sense, you've got any questions, please let us know. Percy said the same thing as well. It's easy at the senior level. John said the same thing. Anthony, you see what's going on there. If anybody's sitting listening to this and thinking, oh, I don't know, just look at these comments here. These are from recruiters are doing it right now. But it is a choice that you'll make. Thanks, Drew.
Perfect. Again, just to do a quick recap. So number one is to focus on the 3 pillars of revenue growth, or what we call the 3 pillars of revenue growth. Number 2 is to do business development to a bigger audience of people. I lost my bullet points. Number 3 is to build a predictable client practice system. Number 4, we just won't focus on is focus on filling bigger salary roles, which brings us on to number 5, which again, we sometimes get a lot of pushback on this, but the number 5, and again, I want to sort of remind you that one of the 3 pillars of growth, one of the pillars is to increase what we call transaction frequency. For you as a recruiter, that's either going to mean win more job orders from each client. So if you're working with 10 clients and they each gave you 1 job order last year, that's going to mean, can we win 2, 3 this year? Or most likely, especially with contingency, it's going to mean actually we don't need to win more job orders, we just need to fill more job orders, right? So maybe we work for it. Maybe at the moment you work on contingency, and for every 3 job orders you work, you're only filling 1 of them. Okay, if we can increase that to filling 2 or 3 out of 3, then obviously we can increase our revenue and profits without any additional work, without any additional resources or team size, right? Again, go and check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box, first of all, on some transaction frequency, right? Perfect. So this is if you especially if you're working contingency right now, this is especially for you, because this is one of the ways you can increase your transaction frequency almost immediately, right? And so secret number 5 is to work on more retained or exclusive business. So work on retained or exclusive business. So retained meaning, just to be clear, that we are getting paid up front before we start work on the assignment. And exclusive meaning that we're the only recruiter working on the assignment. So rather than it being a race to fill the position, working against 2, 3, 5, 10 other recruiters, and whoever gets their first wins is only just working on the role. So again, it's only our candidates to get seen, and it's more likely we're gonna make the placement. Again, so when check in, does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Perfect. So what we found, again, just to be clear, we speak to recruiters almost every single day of the week from most English-speaking countries, and I mean, Terry's got 25 years experience, me like 15, right? So I've done it a long time, and what we see across globally, this is that the average fill rate on contingency assignments is about 1/3, right? So it means that you have to work 3 job orders to fill 1. On the flip side, on retained or exclusives, it's probably you're looking at more like 80-90% fill rate, right? So just from making that shift on the terms that you work with a client under. So this is not a shift in your process, not a shift in your fee, not a shift in any of your what you're doing other than the terms. Like, can we get it exclusively? Can we get it retained? Just that alone will increase your more than double your fill rate, right? More than double your the transaction frequency, or what we call the number of placements that you actually make per client. Again, so when check in, does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. And Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think the point you made there is that the average contingent recruiter will fill 30% of the roles they work on. And let's say for a moment it's 40%. Let's say it's even 50%. And often recruiters, when I talk, they go, "Oh no, we will fill more than that," and they haven't actually measured it. But let's call it 50%. Even if it's 50%, as a contingent recruiter, it means that 50% of the time you're working, you're not getting paid. Imagine I say to you, "Come and work for me, but half the time I'm not going to pay you." You'd say, "Well, why would I do that?" And I would say, "Well, you're a contingent recruiter. You're doing it right now and it seems to be okay. And you don't have to. If you simply," and it is simple. It's simple. It's simple. It's a simple thought that you have to go through. It's not easy to do. I want to be clear about it. It's quite simple to do. You make the decision, actually, I will only work with clients where my chances of success are much higher than that. We're now looking at 80-90%. They're the client I'm going to work with. So I'm going to work exclusively. I'm going to work engaged containment. But engaged containment just means you get a smaller percentage of the fee up front. But here's what we know. When the client's got some skin in the game, your success rate goes through the roof. Clients not going to pay you a deposit, even if it's only and some of our clients are getting deposits of £1,000 or dollars. It's not about the money, it's about the commitment. But they're not going to give you $1,000 and then give that job order to 10 of your competitors. And that's what's happening when you work on contingent. And you can solve that and transform your business when you get your head around that. Drew, I know that we're against the clock here, so I'm going to shut up now and come back to you. But let me just check in again if that's making sense, what I'm saying there about contingent recruiters. Most of the time they're working, they're not getting paid, and how you can transform your business when you get your head around that. Just give me a yes or no in the chat there. Thank you for that. Paul, Kirsty, Anthony, thank you. John, yeah, fantastic. Thank you, John. Excellent. Yes, exclusive research is better. Back to you, Drew.
Awesome. So yeah, Nicola said yes, exclusive or search is better. Terry, again, Claudia said here that should we get at least exclusive if not retained? It's been hard to get retained in 2024. I want to know. I guess I've got my own thoughts on that. What would you say to someone who thought it's been difficult to get retainers in over the last year or even going into this year?
Anytime it's difficult to get anything. Look, let's do it. You've got to be able to communicate the benefit to the hiring manager and working with you on the retained basis. If you can communicate the benefit to them, it's not about you, by the way. Not, well, I need it for my cash flow and I want to make sure I'm working hard. They don't care. But if you can establish and communicate that benefit to them, the question to ask is, look, I can find these candidates. When I find them, when I find these top candidates, do you want them exclusively, or is it okay if I share them with your direct competitor? But guess what most hiring managers say? Well, no, I want them exclusively. Well, of course they do. Well, if you want to work with me exclusively, it's reasonable for me to work with, it's reasonable. It works both ways. But you've got to be able to communicate those benefits to the hiring manager as to why that is. Claudia made a really good point here. Often with contingencies, you don't even get a brief.
I think again, I think just to add to what you said, Terry, I think just again to get to link back to what we said already, retained becomes a lot easier when you move up the food chain because the role's more business critical, so they want the exclusivity. That is the level of service they want. So I think it's actually easier the higher up the food chain you go. And I think although in some markets retained or exclusive might be harder than contingency, harder to win the business, I think any business that's easy to win is bad business. And I think if you look at a lot of the contingency job orders that you've got, often they're already being worked on by multiple recruiters, right? You're already late to the party. So although it might be easier to win the business, it's harder to fill the business as well. And I think we need to have a sort of change of mindset and look at, okay, what business is easier to fill rather than what business is easier to get, if that makes sense. Terry, would you agree with that?
100%. That's a great point you made. Any business that's easy to find is hard to fill. It's absolutely spot on. You want to be thinking about this. The client's giving this job order to me just through a phone call. I've never met them before, and they're giving this job order. How many other people have they said yes to? And even if there's only 4 other recruiters working it, your chance of filling it are down to 20. If 2 of those recruiters got that job order 2-3 weeks before you, you're now down to 10%, maybe even 5%. It's like going into a boxing ring with both hands tied behind your back, and what you're doing is you're gambling. You're gambling that I can fill this role quicker than anybody else. But you're gambling, and you don't know what the odds are. You don't know when the other recruiters got the role, what details they've got. There's so many things going against you.
Yeah, you don't even know if the clients can actually hire. How many times have you had it where you worked on a contingency job order and the clients changed their mind or they changed the spec or they don't end up hiring or they're hiring internally? Right, these are all things that can happen, and I think you're right. That's a good phrase. Like it is gambling, and again, and you say you don't know the odds, which is true in one sense, but it's a gamble where actually, if you look at your business, most of the time you've lost, yet you continue to still do it. But most
in fact, the more we talk about this, the damage of gambling, and if anybody knows anybody that's got the gambling problem, one of the things that if you know a gambler, they say to you, "Oh, I'll win more often than I lose." That isn't true, by the way. That's what a gambler said in the conversation. That's what they say. And when you talk to a gambler, like when you talk to a recruiter, they talk about the big wins because gamblers do have some big wins. Recruiters do get some big wins, but they also get some massive losses as well. The more I think about it, the conversation is very similar.
We're going to check in. Does that make sense? Give us a yes or no in the chat box. And whilst doing that, I'm going to move on to secret number 6. Secret number 6 is to surround yourself with people who are doing better than you. So surround yourself with people that are doing better than you. And again, this one, I think, is again, I think with a lot of these, if you think about it, they're nothing we're going to say is going to surprise you or shock you in one sense, but they're things that often get overlooked and neglected by recruiters. I think, and this is for any industry, running a business can be a very, very lonely place. You've got, especially if you're a solo recruiter or if you've got a team where you're the only owner of the team or of the business. Sorry, it's a very, very lonely place. No one really gets or understands the journey that you're on. No one really gets the sacrifices that you have to make. Nobody gets the challenges of the sleepless nights. No one really would understand that unless they're doing that themselves as well. And I think one of the secrets I think to success is surround yourself with like one in a sense like-minded people that are going for the same journey, but ideally people who are ahead of you in that journey, right? People who have done or walked the path that you want to walk, achieve what you want to achieve. And they can give you guidance on the mistakes to avoid. I think there's a lot of great networking options for recruiters. For example, there's a lot of Facebook groups. We have a Facebook group. There's a lot of good ones out there. But sometimes what I see is in Facebook group, I see someone ask a question in the Facebook group, and let's say there's 1,000 people in the Facebook group, you get 20 people give an answer. And one of the answers I look at and be like, that's the right answer. That's the one I agree with. That's the one that's good. But then there'll be 19 that aren't so good, right? And it's not criticizing anybody, whatever. If you do that, how do you know which piece of advice to follow? And I think it's so dangerous when you're not following advice from people that are ahead of you, and you're just taking random advice from effectively strangers in a Facebook group, right? So what I would say is, and again, you might say, you know, we're bound to say it's because, you know, this is what we offer, which is, you know, true in one sense, but I'm not talking about necessarily buying from us or joining one of our programs, but get into a program where not only the host of the program knows what they're doing, but also the other participants are further along than you. Again, I think if you do that, you're gonna increase your chances of success significantly. And I don't care if it's our program or someone else's, but that will be my advice to you: join a program where there's a pathway to the destination you want to achieve. Again, someone check in. Does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. And Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think it's Anthony Robbins that talks about modeling success. If you want to, let's say, I know solo recruiters that will do $1 million a year or 80,000 a month. Look at what they're doing and do what they're doing, and you'll be there or thereabouts. I think it was Jim Rohns that said that. Look at your 5 closest friends, and you will be earning an average of your 5 closest friends. If your business isn't where you want to be right now, get with people who are doing exactly what you want to do right now. Always makes me smile when you talk to recruiters. We talk about the website. Say, hey, where do you get the ideas for your website? And they said, well, I looked at other recruiters' websites and I kind of copied and modeled my website on that. And I always think, well, why did you do that? Because you don't know whether that website's generating leads or not. And I said, what about your pricing? Well, we looked at other recruiters' pricing and we're kind of mid-range. Think about that statement. That's the strategic advantage of being mid-range in pricing. So you're not the cheapest, but you're right in the middle, which means that there's other recruiters out there right now that get in business and the client's paying more for it. Recruiter business is, well, and the other one, the justification is, well, I've got low overhead, so I can afford to do it. Think about those statements. There is zero strategic advantage in actually doing that. Find a recruiter. I met a recruiter, he charges 45% of base salary. I met another recruiter, you have to pay him the whole fee up front before he will work with you. Think about it. These guys are successful. I would strongly encourage you to be talking to those guys or associating with those kind of guys. What are they doing? That one guy, he's got a fixed fee. Whatever your salary is, his fixed fee is 24,000. But you pay me up front before I even consider working with you. Most hiring managers say, well, not many other recruiters do that. And his response is, I'm not any other recruiter. I'm the leader in this field. If you want to qualify to work with me, that's what you do. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. But he gets his money up front. Worth thinking about, isn't it? If somebody else can do it, you can too. That's why you need to be really careful who you're associating with and who you're listening to as well. Let me know if that makes sense. Any questions on that? Please let me know if that makes sense.
It was yes or no, if that makes sense. Any questions, let us know as well. Awesome. Perfect. So I just want to do a quick recap before we go on to secret number 7. And I guess as a recap, what I want to know, and just give me the number, what's been like, I guess, the biggest takeaway for you. So if it's, secret number 1, put 1. If it's 2, whatever. So give me the number which works best for you as we go through these. So number 1 was to focus on the 3 pillars of revenue growth. 2, business development to a bigger audience of people. Number 3, build a predictable client attraction system. Number 4 is focus on filling bigger salary roles. Number 5 was win more retained and exclusive business. And then number 6 was surround yourself with people who are doing better than you. So out of those 6, which one's been the most impactful for you? Just give me the number in the chat box. I want to get some feedback from you all before we move on to number 7. Again, I do want to hear from all of you. So give me the number. All right, 1 to 6. Which one's been like the biggest takeaway for you?
Paul saying 1. Josh is saying 5. John saying 3. Kirsty 1 and 4. Marcus 1. So what's it been for you? If you haven't answered, just give us a number so we know what it is. So for a lot of people, it's focused on the 3 pillars. 3, building a predictable client attraction system rather than relying on ad hoc marketing. 4, focusing on the bigger salaries. 5, winning retained and exclusive business rather than working on contingent, where most of the time you're working, you're not getting paid. 6, surround yourself with people who are doing better than you. Absolutely. Success leaves clue.
So then just to wrap up then, that brings on to number 7, which number 7 is to create a clear and measurable growth plan. Create a clear and measurable growth plan. I think, I know, and I've done it myself as well, is that, start of the end of the year, this is what everyone does, is like, this year went like this, whether it's going good or bad doesn't really matter. But we always want to do better next year. We always want to increase revenue, we want to increase profits, whatever it is. We have goals and ambitions of doing better. And again, this is a mistake I've made myself, and I'm sure you've made it as well, is that it's one thing saying that you want to do better, like that's what everyone says. It's one thing even having the intent and doing the actions. But I think unless you can get a clear picture or a measurable, the numbers behind what that growth looks like. So if I want to double my revenue, what activity goes into that? If I want to be fitter and healthier, one, how fit and how healthy, how's that measured? And then secondly, what goes into that? I think sometimes we can have these plans for growth without really having a real measurable plan behind it. And again, that'll be my secret number 7 is, yes, have goals, have ambition, have intention of growing the business, whatever it is, have intention of having more holidays, whatever it is. But one, make it measurable. But then 2, break down the steps it's going to take to get there. What some of the most successful recruitment business owners that we've ever worked with, they're almost obsessive with their daily action plan. That's one thing that sets them apart. Right? They don't just have this goal for the end of the year. They have the goal for the end of the year. They have what they need to do per month. They have what they need to do every single day, and they have these actions. And if they don't do the actions, then they're not going to hit their end goal, right? And I think sometimes we can have this idea of growth and talk and think in terms of ambition, but without that, these are the actions I need to do every day, no matter what, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter what else is going on. If I do these actions in this order, I'm going to hit that goal. I think without that, you don't really have a goal. You don't really have a plan, right? And I think that'll be my secret number 7 is to build a measurable, clear growth plan to actually get what you want to achieve.
Yeah, great. Some great points there. And just to add to that, often, Drew said, we talk to recruitment business owners every day of the week. And one question we ask is, what do you want? And a lot of recruiters say, I said, what's your goal? And they go, I want more money. And let's say they're based in the UK. I say, great, I'm going to send you a check for £1. You've now got more money, or a check for $1 if they're based in North America. And they always like, no, I want more than that. But do you get the point? If your goal is to get more money, you get $1 or £1 extra, you've got more money. But it's not specific enough. They obviously they want more than that. But you've got to be specific about what it is that you want. And then the other thing is, Drew kind of touched on, is let's say you want to do $1 million in the next 12 months. That's 80,000, roughly 80,000 a month, every month. You've got to focus on the activity, because the actual focus on the destination, $1 million in this case, you haven't got complete control over that, because you may do 820, you may do 1.2, but you haven't got control over that. What you have got control over is the activity. So if you need to do $1 million, and let's say your average fee, just for the sake of this conversation, is 40,000 in placement fee. So you're recruited at two. So you make a decision. I'm going to recruit at 200,000 plus, and my average fee is going to be 40,000. Now you know you need to win 2 retainers a month. So the next question is, what is it you need to do that when you do it, you would win 2 retainers? Well, I need to do more activity. But specifically, what do you need to do? How many meetings do you need to have with hiring managers who are in the market for what you do? And let's say you say, well, actually, I need 30 meetings. Fantastic. So what is it you need to do that when you do it, you'll get 30 meetings? But you've got to focus on what you control. And if you focus on what you can control, and there's a great book on this, it's called The 12-Week Year, that goes into a lot more detail, but somebody just touched on it. It's not easy, is it good for you in terms of achieving your goal, but it's also good for your psyche, because then one of the problems with anxiety and depression is when you feel out of control. But when you're doing this, you actually, I'm in control of my own destiny. It's so good for your mental well-being, because you acknowledge, I'm in control. I can do the activity. I can do the messages on LinkedIn. I can do the calls. I can do the emails. I'll get a bigger list. At the moment, I'm only marketing to 2,000. Hell, I'm going to get a list of 20,000. And if I only get a 1% response, but do you see the difference there? It's that you're taking control of what's going on. To you, Drew. And by the way, before back to Drew, any questions on anything that we said, anything that you don't agree with, if it does make sense? And by the way, I really appreciate the feedback getting as well. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, John. John's made a really good point, by the way, that what we've shared with you isn't rocket science. It's not. And people go, well, that wasn't new, that wasn't rocket science. You don't need rocket science and something new to succeed. You need what works. And John's made a really good point. It's being reminded of this just being consistent in these things. Really good point there, John. Thank you. So any thoughts for if you agree with that, please let me know. If you don't agree with that, please let me know. So just give me a yes or a no in the box. If you've got any questions, please feel free.
Again, for anyone that's found this useful and wants to know more, wants to speak to us more, obviously you can one of the ways you can, if you go to let me give the website and put it in the chat box. If you go to makemoreplacements.com/call. That's makemoreplacements.com/call. You can book what we call a fast track to more placement strategy session, where speak with me, Terry, one of our team, and we'll help you get absolute clarity on what you need to do moving forward to grow your business. And we'll also give you a few free trainings to help you along the way as well. So that's makemoreplacements.com/call. It's 15 minutes. That's all it is. Book a time slot. It's not a sales call. There'll be no pitch at the end of it. But what we will guarantee that we'll do is we'll help you get clarity on what you need to do moving forward to make more placements, and we'll give you some free trainings to help you along the way. That's makemoreplacements.com/call. So if you haven't already done that already, head over to that link, and yeah, we look forward to speaking with you soon. So anything to say before we finish up?
No, I just want to thank you for taking the time out. It says a lot about you as individuals, you know, because a lot of people could have attended this, but you've made that decision, and you've made that decision to think about it. You made the decision to make sure that 2025 is going to be one of your best years yet. And I just want to commend you on doing that. It says a lot about you. I want to thank you, Drew. Of course, it goes without saying thank you, buddy, and thank you for the slides and everything. That's really, really great.
Thank you for the maths that you did in the beginning. That was really helpful.
Drew, that was nothing.
Awesome, nice one. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll speak with you soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.